All right, President Biden just left the White House a short time ago, facing shouted questions about his son, Hunter Biden. We'll get that video in just moments. Hunter, of course, now accused of a 4-year tax evasion scheme that alleges he spent millions of dollars on things including drugs, escorts, exotic cars, instead of paying his taxes. The president did not answer those shouted questions so far. We're waiting to see if he addresses them at Joint Base Andrews as he gets ready to depart on a campaign trip. Now, in the 9-count indictment, Justice Department prosecutors say Hunter Biden, quote, willfully failed to pay his 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 taxes on time, despite having access to funds. The indictment lists his alleged expenses, things he did use his funds on, nearly $700,000 for payments to various women, nearly $200,000 for adult entertainment, $71,000 for rehab. Ultimately, a grand total of $4.9 billion. With us now, CNN senior crime and justice reporter Caitlin Polance and former Manhattan prosecutor Jeremy Saland. Caitlin, I want to start with you first on the details of this indictment.
Yeah, there's a lot of details here. It's a long one where the prosecutors put together quite a lot of evidence, not just about what Hunter Biden was doing with the IRS or not doing, not paying his taxes, not filling out the forms correctly, lying to them is the felony allegations here. There are 3 felony charges, but they also put together the amount of money that he had taken in as someone who had a lot of business ventures, including overseas. $7 million was the amount that he had, and he failed to pay $1.4 million to the IRS. Now, as they're explaining all of this in these tax charges, this is going to be a major case in California in federal court that Hunter Biden is going to contest, very likely go to trial. But the prosecutors have a lot of meat on the bones about what they want to say happened in 2018. That's when Hunter Biden, in his memoir, talked about being a drug addict and where a lot of these expenses really became quite outlandish. A Lamborghini rental, luxury hotels, all kinds of things that he was doing that really, when taken together, are quite shocking. And then when prosecutors are saying the felony charge here, the thing that he did wrong in that year of 2018 that is so egregious, is that he was saying to the IRS, these are business deductions, these are business expenses. In fact, they were not. The prosecutors say they are personal expenses. You'd have to pay taxes on that money. And just to highlight one of how in-depth this is, one of the pieces, $27,000 is a business deduction that he wrote down. Prosecutors say that was spent on online porn, $27,000 on online porn in 2018 from this business account that he paid it out of. That was 20% of all of the expenditures in that business account.
All right. Wow on that. And again, President Biden heading from the White House to Joint Base Andrews, where he's going to leave on a campaign trip very, very shortly. We are waiting to see if he comments at Joint Base Andrews. You're looking Marine One there at the air base. Again, we'll bring those comments to you if they happen. He will be shouted questions, unpredictable with President Biden, whether or how he chooses to answer them. All right, Jeremy Saland is here. Counselor, Hunter Biden, there was a plea deal in place that fell apart. If you are his attorneys, how do you respond to these charges now?
There's a couple arguments. The initial one, which you already have heard, is that that plea deal that already happened, that already transpired, that didn't ultimately go through, there was an agreement. That should hold. You can't turn around and charge him for this crime that he already started proceeding on with that plea deal in place. That's one of their initial arguments. A lesser argument, although it's certainly a practical one, is we're finding Hunter Biden charged with a crime that if anyone else had done it, you know what, they might have been able to work this out civilly or without prosecution. It sounds like a lot of money, and to the average person it is, but we often routinely will see these tax type crimes charged for far greater amounts, and that this is more from a political perspective and pressure coming from the Republican House and the investigation into the president. So there's a lot of issues that are at play here.
And again, you're looking at live pictures of Marine One at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, where President Biden is arriving right now. He left the White House a short time ago. He did not respond to shouted questions about the new indictments against Hunter at the White House. Will he hear? It does seem unlikely, but yes, President Biden can be unpredictable when faced with questions, particularly about his family. And Caitlin, while we're on the subject of President Biden here, the U.S. House of Representatives is on the verge of putting a vote to the floor to launch this impeachment inquiry. There's already inquiry underway. It doesn't have the mandate of the full House yet. Is there anything in this indictment, 56 pages at all, that is in any way adjacent to Joe Biden? Hunter Biden's not the one who's facing an impeachment inquiry here. President Joe Biden is.
Right. Joe Biden isn't in this indictment. This is about Hunter Biden and the business ventures he has. But James Comer, the chair of the House Oversight Committee, who is really trying to gain steam on this inquiry into Joe Biden, has tried to make it about the foreign business of Hunter Biden and is even calling for more investigation by the Justice Department into the president, not just his son. But what's interesting about this indictment is it isn't just about the tax. There clearly was work that the prosecutors did to trace those payments that were coming into Hunter Biden from these foreign business associates or clients that he and his other business partners had. And they aren't bringing a foreign lobbying case or anything that would amount to what the House wants there to be, what House Republicans want, some sort of indication of bribery or political malfeasance. It just isn't there.
So what does that tell you, Counselor Jeremy? And again, as we're watching President Biden shortly get off Marine One here, we'll listen in very carefully to see if he faces any questions. Actually, let's pause for 1 minute here. He's headed to Nevada for a campaign trip and also for an infrastructure event. These are the places where occasionally reporters, members of the White House pool, can get questions to the President of the United States. Sometimes presidents, including President Biden, choose to answer them. Plenty of times they don't.
Mr. President! Mr. President, your reaction!
All right, that's a hard pass from the President of the United States, Joe Biden. A hard pass on answering questions. The reporters, as far as we could tell, didn't even get to the question. They were just trying to get his attention to ask a question. President Biden choosing not to answer anything about his son Hunter, at least today. Jeremy Saland, to Kaylan Polant's point there are not charges on foreign lobbying or anything outside the world of tax evasion, which is a more serious charge than he would have pleaded guilty to in the plea agreement before. This is felony tax evasion, not just not paying your taxes. But the fact that there are none of the other charges here, what do you read into that?
Well, they're sticking, the four corners of the indictment are very clear, and it's a much easier case to make out. Why extrapolate and why make this effort to find other crimes when you have fairly easy and straightforward offenses right in front of you? And the special counsel may or may not be getting pressure or feeling pressure from the Republican Congress, but he's trying to solely indict, or has indicted, solely proceed on a case against Hunter. If ultimately, when there is a trial, and if there's a trial, it turns out that his father, meaning President Biden, was involved, they're going to get that evidence the House could use later on. But the four corners of this, he is trying to be clean and easy. Why create more of a mess? Why create more issues? Why make it more political? Let's stick to what we have. And I think that's why the special counsel is handling it in this manner.
All right, Jeremy Saland, Kaylan Polantz, thanks so much to both of you.